All right. We're going to start chapter 9 today. Chapter 9, we jump around a lot, just kind of a heads up. All online again. 9-1 today, 9-1 tomorrow, 9-2 on Wednesday. I'll plan something for Thursday. It's like a weird spot because it's right before a 3-day weekend, and I don't know, we're just at a weird spot there. So that Thursdays may change. I'm not sure exactly. And then there's a there's 2 9-5s, and that's it in this chapter. So we're going to take a quiz on this. I'm not going to put it in as a chapter test because a 9-1, 9-2, and a 9-5 doesn't seem like it should have the same weight as the chapter 8 test you just took. You know what I mean by that? So you will have an assessment on this, but it most likely will be more of a quiz grade, like 25, 30 points versus 100 points. So just kind of a heads up on there. That will take us through April something, 9th, 8th. And then when we come back the following week, starting April 11th, we're going to do some reviewing of 8th grade concepts that we haven't done in a long time, like Pythagorean theorem and volume and just some other pieces that you'll go like, oh yeah, but it's been a whole calendar year since you've done it. So just kind of a review. And then we'll be at Smarter Balance testing, which is the last week of April for math. And then we will come back. We're going to do a little bit into chapter 10, and then we will study for your semester final. And right now, tentatively, I would like to do the semester final on the 18th of May. That's 1 week before school's out. And the reason I say that is I like it on a Wednesday because nobody's leaving for activities. You know what I'm saying? And just like before, we will have, I think right now I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday planned for you to get to study in class just like we did before. Now, the second semester test is the one that you have to get an 85% on to get the high school credit. The nice thing about the second semester, though, it's only over 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's only over 4 things. It will not cover 10.
Are our tests the same as other classes?
Yes. So, yep. So because you guys are 8th graders, all the 8th graders, no matter what level math you're in, you take the same test.
Okay.
That's actually a really good question. Just like last year, you guys took the same test. Yep. Because really, we're testing you on what you know on grade level. I'm not comparing you like 8th period to 7th period compared to 5th period. I'm just, how many of my kids do well on this test? And doing well varies for every kid. Some people can gain 50 points on it. Some people, I'm not so stressed about that. Just come and show up and do what you're supposed to do. It usually pans out for me. Okay? Quadratic functions are nonlinear, not a line. So we spent all of chapter 8 dealing with polynomials and specifically quadratics because we had that x squared. So quadratics are written in the form, f of x, remember, is just a fancy way of saying y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. A, b, and c are going to be numbers. So basically it's a trinomial, right? Your highest exponent is a 2. The shape of this graph is a U shape known as a parabola. So this parabola is going to either open upward or it will open downward. So this is what your parabola. Now, it can be really wide and fat. It could be really skinny, but it's always going to be a U shape. It has a line called the axis of symmetry. Symmetry means you can fold it and it matches up perfectly through the vertex. So there's going to be a point at the bottom or at the top, pending which way it opens up. I always do it with a dashed line. If I drew a dashed line through that and folded my graph, the left side will match the right side. If it doesn't, you screwed up. Now, that's why I say it can be really fat, but it's still, when you fold it over, it's going to match up. If a is greater than 0, the graph opens upward, and your vertex is a minimum. If a is less than 0, it opens downward, and it's a maximum. So our first thing is to look at the coefficient of the x squared term. Okay, the rest of this will fall into place. So just a quick summary. Standard form can be written as f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. It's a parabola, which is a U shape. Now, the axis of symmetry goes through the vertex. it goes through the vertex. In order to find that, we have to take negative b divided by 2a. So we have to take our equation written in standard form and do negative b over 2a. That's going to give us the x value of our vertex. Following that, then we will plug it in. This is the min or the max, pending which way it opens up. If it opens upward, it's going to be a minimum. Downward, it's going to be a maximum. Okay, lots of vocabulary right there. What's it look like on a problem, on a graph, so on and so forth. So function number 1, they graphed for us. See our U shape? Okay. If I folded it in half through that vertex, it would match up. Function 2, they give us a table. Okay. Now they ask us questions. What is the vertex of function 1? Very good. Negative 2, 5. It is that bottom point, in this case, because it opens upward. What is the vertex of function 2? Why 2, 7? You're right. See what she's talking about here? There's your symmetry, right? Your y values start to match up. Well, whatever point has to be kind of that center, that balance beam, that's your vertex. So 2, 7 is in the middle of both of those. That is your vertex. Which function has a smaller minimum value? When it's talking about the minimum value or the maximum, they're talking about the y value. Does function 1 or function 2 have a smaller minimum value? Function 1. What is the smaller minimum value? 5. Always your y value. Your x tells you where it's located, and then your y is going to be like what the value of that is. Okay. How do you know if a quadratic function has a maximum or a minimum? If you have a greater than 0, your graph is going to open upward, and your vertex is going to be a minimum. If the coefficient of x squared is greater than 0, if it's positive, it is going to open upward. If a is less than 0, it will open downward, and your vertex will be a maximum. That is the highest y value it will reach. So that a value really helps you out, knows if your graph is going to look correct, and identifies whether you're going to open up, open down, forming a max or a min. Okay? A vehicle factory manufactures cars. The unit cost, which is what C is standing for, depends on the number of cars made. So X is standing for the number of cars made. The unit cost is given by the following function. C of x equals 0.4 x squared minus 120x plus 20,435. How many cars must be made to minimize the unit cost? Do not round your answer. As soon as you see where they're talking about minimum, you're looking for the vertex. You're trying to locate the vertex. Now, in the last one, they gave us a graph and they gave us a table. This time, they gave us a function. In this function, a is the coefficient of x squared. In our problem or our equation, what is our a value? 0.4. B is the coefficient of your x term. In this equation is negative 120. Good job with the negative. And C is the number that is a constant or does not have a variable. In this problem, 20,435. The reason I say to identify those is because to find the vertex, we have to plug it into x equals negative b over 2a. And now that I have a, b, and c identified, it's easy to plug in. So that negative sign is always going to be there. What is my b value in this problem? negative 120 divided by 2 times, what is my A value? 0.4. Now, in the numerator of that, a negative 120 really is a positive. So I really have positive 120 divided by 0.8. What is 120 divided by 0.8? It's a whole number? Yeah. What does X stand for in this problem? How many cars are made? How many cars must be made to minimize the unit cost? 150 cars. What if I asked you, at the minimum, what is the least amount the cars could cost to be made? How would you find that? Very good. We want the Y value then at that point, right? The cost. If they want the minimum cost per unit, you would have to take your 150 and plug it in there, following order of operations, and then you would get your cost. X equals negative B over 2A. Get used to writing that a lot. Okay? You're going to need to memorize that. The graph of the quadratic function with the vertex 0, negative 3 is shown in the figure below. Find the domain and range. Oh boy. What does domain mean? Very good. It's all our X values. Okay? At the bottom it says write your answer as inequalities using X or Y as appropriate, or you may click on empty set or all reals as the answer. What is the domain for this graph? What X values will work? All of them. There's nothing to stop it, right? This is absolutely one that we're going to type all real numbers, or hit that button, all reals. There is no reason that an X value will not work. All reals. Okay? Range are the Y values. What Y values is this graph located at? All of them? Say it again. Somebody over here said something. What'd you say? What is less than negative 3? Your Y. Very good. Your Y is less than negative 3. So you're telling me your graph doesn't touch negative 3, but touches everywhere down below that. You want it equal to? So now you're telling me it actually does touch at negative 3, but then goes down below that. Very good. You ready for a hint? On quadratics, your domain, always all reals on X. Okay, on this. There's no reason an X value does not work. Your range is what's going to be impacted. Okay? Your range is what's going to be impacted. One more. Okay, here's one where they want us to find the range of the quadratic function given an equation. Write your answer as an inequality using X or Y as appropriate, or you may state empty set or all reals as the answer. So if I'm talking about the range, all I want to know are which letter, X or Y? Y. How am I going to figure out where this graph occurs, Maddox? Really, that's my X though. How is that going to help me? Because isn't that X equals negative B over 2A? Caden?
Plug in X to all the X's. Plug in different X to get Y.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't question yourself. This is how I find my vertex. So I'm going to plug that in. Not really going to be part of my answer, but I'm going to have to use that X value and plug it back in. Like on this cars one, we found X and we got to quit. But really, we'd have to plug it back in to find our Y. Okay? So let's identify. A is 2, B is 12, C is 14. So X equals negative 12 divided by 2 times 2. So this stays negative 12 because there's not two negatives. 2 times 2 is 4. So x actually equals -3. Okay, now Caden's absolutely right. My vertex is a point. It's an x comma y. We just figured out the x is -3. To figure out the y, I got to plug that back in. So y equals 2, make sure you use parentheses, times -3 squared plus 12 times -3 plus 14. Why is it so crucial to use parentheses? The exponent, but also so it doesn't look like 12 minus 3. How does the exponent impact? Why would it matter if I had parentheses around this or not? -3 in parentheses squared is what? Positive or negative? Positive. If there were not parentheses, -3 squared is a -9 because that negative isn't repeated. So be very cautious with that. Exponents first, you guys just told me that that was 9, correct? Now what should I do? Can we multiply both of them in the same one? Are you guys good with that? We do both of these. 2 times 9 is 18. 12 times -3, -36 plus 14. 18 minus 36 would be -18 plus 14 would be -4. Okay, that's my vertex. So what's my range? Write your answer as an inequality using x or y appropriately. There's something we're missing here. Do we know if it's greater than or less than? We have to determine that, right? How am I going to know if my graph is above -4 in the range or below -4 in the range? Okay, so what happens if a is greater than 0? What's that tell me about my graph? So a is greater than 0. So what does that tell me about my graph, though? It's a minimum, right? Meaning your graph opens upward. And we know in our problem, this point is -3, -4. Where do my y values occur then? When y is greater than or equal to -4. So do I really know exactly what this graph looks like? No. Most important that it opens upward, though. And so this is a minimum, I heard somebody say. So my y values are going to have to be higher than that. -b over 2a. Understanding that you have symmetry, your graph is symmetric, and being able to understand your minimum value. If they ask you the minimum value, you're looking at the y. Okay? If you want to do your work on the back of this, I'm totally fine because I don't think there's going to be much that you need to turn into me. Or if you'd rather get grid paper, that's totally fine as well. 9-1 online, due at 8 a.m.